Yeah. Ha ha. Trap, man.
Ghostflows, speak easy. Ghostflows, speak easy. Ghostflows, speak easy. Ghostflows, speak easy. Anchor home of the Ghostflows and speak easy. With OG Classic Jones, so move easy. A place we talk about rap news and political views. Rap legends and the weekly reviews. With the dash of human man, so you're being amused. Quinn runs the house like a preacher bringing the news. Changing the game, man, and rewriting the rules. Words paint a perfect picture like inspiring muse. Circle of viruses, man, make it do what it do. Built off self-success, walk a mile in these shoes. Sick with the flow, man, got 'em saying I choose. Don't be a hater all your life, act like you knew. Ha! Ghostflows, speak easy. Ghostflows, speak easy. Ghostflows, speak easy. Ghostflows, speak easy. All right, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Ghostflows Speakeasy. I am your host, Ghostflows, and I got another one of those special interviews for you. Now, before I say that, let me give a shout out real quick to Trajman Jones. Y'all know him because I had him on the podcast a few weeks ago, interviewing him, COB artist out of Charleston, South Carolina. He did the intro for us, so hopefully if you enjoyed that intro, that was the man, Trajman Jones. Soot, the Trash Man. So, the interview I'm getting ready to do, I'm really excited for. We're going to give you an inside perspective or look into the history of one of the most notorious gangs in America, in the Crips. And so we're going to get a man I've known for a little while, still getting to know him more and more. A man named Harvey Hartfield, better known as First Sag. He's been a part of the Crips, associated with the Crips for a long time, and he's been willing to give us a few minutes of his time to really kind of talk about the history and just answer some random questions just about, gang life and things like that in particular, and then where he'd like to see the Crips direction change to in the future. So I'll be right back with First Sag. All right, y'all, as promised, my guest tonight is been a man that I started knowing on Facebook like right at a year ago or so. He's going to have a really interesting life story for y'all to hear and a really good insight to one of America's most notorious gangs in the Crips. Harvey Hartfield, better known as First Sag. Welcome to this podcast.
I appreciate it, brother. Nice being with you all.
I appreciate you giving us your time. I kind of want to get started, I guess, in a sense, in the beginning. So, were you there from like the very, very beginning of when the Crips formed up?
You can say I were. Yes, you can say that.
So I've heard stories about guys like Tukey Williams and Raymond Washington and guys like that. Did you know those guys personally?
I saw them guys personally, but them guys was much older than me, brother. I wasn't running with them, running the streets with them at the time, but I seen them in various places.
They were pretty famous characters in the neighborhood, yeah?
Yes, sir, they were.
Why is it that they decided to start up that gang, and then how did it come together with like the colors and all of that?
Okay, well, officially, as we all know, the Crips formed out of the east side of Los Angeles with Raymond Washington around 1969, I believe it was. And from there, from what it was, Raymond had a pretty good aspect about how he went by things, because it's sort of hard to explain, bro. The thing is like this here, man. The civil rights played a role in how the Crips revolved, bro. Is how that goes down.
Okay.
You understand, because black people mentality at that time was equality, bro. It's what they was looking for. You understand? Mm-hmm. And we had the Black Panthers and civil rights activists growing up. We was listening to Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Elder Cleveland and Angela Davis and people like them growing up, brother. That was our influence. But that influence was taken from us. It was stopped. And when that influence left us and that mentality left us is when the gang culture came about. You understand where I'm going with this here?
Right. Like, so basically the civil rights movement's going on. Then Martin Luther King gets assassinated. That was a big blow.
Yes, sir.
The Panthers, they started up.
Panthers were destroyed within 5 years. We are the bastards of them. You understand?
Okay.
At the time, the Panthers was working on transitioning the gang culture into the revolution with them. And that's where Bunchy Carter comes in at. But Bunchy Carter was killed. So the plan wasn't ever executed. Bunchy Carter was considered the mayor of Los Angeles at the time. And he had the influence of bringing all the gangs together. And these gangs then, the Crips wasn't even in existence then. These gangs was like the Flossers and the Gladiators and the Farmers and the businessmen and the Avenues and guys like them. You know, this is before the Crips even had existed. So before they can get them guys to come in out of the gang culture on a revolutionary type status, they all would have been under the Black Panther Party, and therefore, who all Crips and Bloods today would have fell under the same flag then themselves. But the Black Panther Party was destroyed. They was either killed, sent to prison, or the ones who stayed in society, they went underground. And from going underground is how we got the BGL, the Black Guerrilla Family. That was basically an underground type thing. They didn't do nothing out in the open no more. So once they destroyed that, us youngsters like Raymond Washington and a few others, Batman and them, they all was the young teenagers left without that influence. So they started up their own thing, you know what I mean? Which eventually came up to Crips. It's originally told that it was the Crips at first, because it was like a from the cradle to the grave type thing that they were starting up. So, and you know, the cradle was the baby Crip.
Right.
So supposedly they got miswrote or something in the newspaper when the Asian lady said Crips, after they came in and robbed their store or something of that nature. But the thing was, she thought they was crippled because they was carrying canes.
Oh.
And that's the reason why she pronounced it. So when it got known as Crip, and it just blew up in the media like it did, you know, everybody just rode the wave. This Crip. You know what I understand? You see where I'm going with it?
Right. I'd never ever heard that before. believe it or not. I'd never heard that. So initially it was more like crib.
Like Crip, CRIB, supposedly was the original thing.
Wow. Yeah, I'd never heard that before.
Supposedly it was the original thing, because they were saying from the cradle to the grave, you know, with the thing they was the grave. So, you know, the cradle's a big crib, you know what I mean? So it was supposedly that.
Wow. Yeah,
you know?
See, yeah, that's one of the many reasons why I really wanted this interview, because stories like that I'd never heard before.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. See, like Raymond, I'm 58. Raymond would have been, what, 65, 66 or something if he was still alive? Or something along that line. And, see, them guys, they was older than me, about 5 years older. You understand?
Right.
So when it first took off, I was too small. I was at 7 and 8 years old to be running around with guys who was 15 years old. You know what I mean?
Right.
So later, like 5 years down the line after this started up, I've been affiliated with it since 1971. And I was officially initiated in 1973. You understand? And then the thing with it, I'm somewhat considered the first generation on the back end, because the generation gap in the gang culture separates us by 5 years span.
Right.
You see where I'm going with this here? Like, Raymond then was involved like 5 years or so before I got involved.
But yeah,
you understand?
But yeah,
then 5 years after me is when my brothers now got involved.
And so they would be kind of the back end of this
my
third.
My brother and them consider, if you want to put it that way. Because the thing is, I consider myself a second, because I'm not going to sit up here and flat out tell you that I was running the streets with the guys who actually started. I know their names. I've seen them as a little boy. Young kid, I mean, when they was doing their thing, but I was too small to be participating. I had to wait my turn somewhat. You understand what I mean?
Right.
So by the time I'm 12 years old, I'm initiated in, because I'm on my way to junior high school now. You understand? So I'm already did my stealing and fighting in 5th and 6th grade and carrying on for it to try to prove myself worthy of being involved, to be with it. You understand me? And then back in them days, we done stuff like prospect stuff. We make sure you had the heart for it before we even let you join in. You understand what I mean? So that's how we did it. That's how we got out of hand in these times, because we don't do that anymore. We just started accepting guys in anyway. You understand? And then with some groups, it was becoming about numbers anyway. The bigger we are, we large, we this. So they let anybody into the gang now.
Right.
And with that, it wasn't no solidness anymore. You know what I mean? It had a lot of weak links in it.
When and I don't know how much of this you can talk about, but like so in those early years, when you talk about initiation, can you talk about kind of what was involved in that at all?
Yeah, with initiation, it was to prove that you had some type of heart, bro.
Right.
It was to prove that you had some type of heart. Now, in the first beginning of it, like, you had to walk the line of everybody in the gang. So if the gang was 20 strong, you're going to have 10 on each side, and you're going to have to walk through it and take what they give you. You understand?
Right.
But if the gang was 100 strong, then you're going to have 50 lined up on each side, and you're going to have to go through it. You understand what I'm saying? But in those, when they did that the first few times, they felt like it was too brutal. When the dude got back to the end of the line, he looked ugly, like a monster. I mean, his eyes split open, his nose bleeding, teeth might be gone, and they like, well, he's finna be one of us. And we doing them like this. After a while, they started sympathizing with that type of initiation. You understand what I'm saying? So later on, we went from the fight 4, 5, 6 dudes for so many minutes, and then you win. You understand? Because we might get in the gang fight. We might show up at the party, 17 of us, and the rivals show up 45 of them. And we not going to run, we going to fight. You understand?
Right.
So you're going to be in them battles where you're going to have 5 on 1, 6 on 1. Because if you run, you're ranking the set. You know what I mean? You ain't going to be able to show your face no more.
Right, because you didn't hold your ground.
So because you took off running or whatever the case may be. We call that ranking the set back then. So we showed up at the party and 18 of us on me, and when we got there, 45 of the rivals showed up, then it is what it is. It is what it is. If we're going to get in, we're going to get in.
Right.
So you sometimes you had them odds against you. So we went into that type of initiation after a while. You can fight 4, 5 to 6 dudes for so many minutes and see how you handle yourself.
Now, I know, people know that there was a big rivalry. I mean, just based off of general knowledge, people will say, okay, you got Bloods and then you got Crips. But I know historically you've had Crips fighting Crips before. Can you talk about kind of how that started? Like why guys would kind of go against each other? It's supposed to be kind of the same team.
Yeah, but let me explain the Crips and the Blood rivalry somewhat a little bit before we get on that.
Yeah, sure.
But the thing is this here. In the beginning, it wasn't about no colors and it wasn't about no cousin bloods. The original Crips in the beginning, they still used the term blood. Blood was a universal word used by black people, and it meant that you was brothers and sisters. That was actually what blood meant. I said blood when I was a little boy. A lot of dudes older than me who was original Crip members, they called me Young Blood when they saw me running around. Right. You understand what I'm saying? It was later on down the line, a couple of years after the Crips got in, that the Blue Rag came up and these hood sets and gangs came up. At first, it was just the big 3. It was the East Side Crips, the West Side Crips, and the Compton Crips. Mainly, they had Raymond Washington. On the east side, you had Melvin L. Hardy, as well as a few others, Rayford Miles and a few others. On the west side, who was falling into the general category, along with Barefoot Pookie and a few others. And then you had the Compton Crip gang, which basically Mac Thomas started, the Compton Crip gang. So in the beginning, there was the 3. Mac Thomas came from the east side to Compton. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. So that was your major 3. But like I was talking about the civil rights, acts and things was going on at the time. Now in 1968 is when they honored the bill that was signed in 65 by Kennedy, to where blacks could live like everybody else in whatever suburb, city, or county want to live in. It couldn't be denied housing, and you couldn't deny them from being police anymore, firemen. They had the rights to do these things, or they can sue you like any other white man could if you was playing unfair, this, that, and that. This is when, so in 1968, around that time is when the people in Los Angeles start going to Compton, Linwood, Long Beaches, and Pomonas, and Riversides and everything. You understand what I'm saying? Because now we allowed to go. And that's how you had the Crips just scatter all over the place in such fast time. You know what I mean? Because at the time we was making these transitions to these rights that we had by moving into other suburbs, towns, and cities. You understand? Because you had some black folks felt like they was country people. So they went to Riverside where you can have horses and Rialtos and stuff like that, kimonos. and stuff like that. So, that's how they, within 69 to 72, the Crips was able to just spread everywhere that they go. And with that, they bring their rivals to bloods, because you always gonna have, wherever you at, people disagreeing on what you do. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
But when the hood sets and gangs started, that really started on the west side with Melvin Hardy and them, and Monkey Man and Barefoot Pookie, which really started on the west side. The multiplication is what they called it. The multiplication part of it is what they called it, because it was a mail sent to Raymond in the pen in regards to going by that way with the Crips, and Raymond felt that it was an excellent deal, and for them to go for it, because you had guys. The thing was, Raymond had a uniqueness, because all these guys was leaders of their own thing before they was Crips. Melvin Hardy and them was the Smacks. Tookie was out the Capone group. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. So you had guys, before they was Crips, they was their own thing. They were their own leaders, amongst themselves, with their little crews and groups they had. But Raymond was able to get these little crews and groups all to fall under one umbrella, the Crips, the Crips. You know what I'm saying? So you had all these guys who was leaders. So in order for leaders not to have any egos and come together under one thing, it takes some awesome to make that happen, brother. You know what I mean?
Right. That's what I was getting ready to say. That's impressive too. To
Raymond right there. You got to give Raymond some credit. You dealing with men who got just as much pride as you. You know what I'm saying? And you able to get them to come under an understanding and fall under this idea that you thought of. You know what I'm saying? And want to do.
Right.
And they decide to rock with you. So right there, that was a big blessing, and this awesome thing that you can do. But the thing was, that's when they came up with the multiplication and started their own little groups, and which I call hood sets and gangs today. Melvin Hardy founded the 11th Trade, 113th Street OBC's original Black Crips. Pookie started the West Side Paybacks. Monkey Man started the 107 Underground Street Crips. And after that, you just had the Hoovers come out with your Ransom and all, and the Compton Crips with Mac Thomas. In Compton, we had the Grandies come out, and from there, we spread it with shit, 165 and Boot Hill, and to Spooktown, Atlantic Drive, to Midtown, and it just spread it to Long Beach Paybacks, to 357 in Pomona. It just spread like a wildfire, bro. And when you done that, you had these guys who had their own groups anyway. Somewhat was the leader of these groups that came out around 71, 72. You understand? So we talking 3 and 4 years after the Crips actually started is when we went to saying cuz to each other. We started because we wanted to stand out and be different from the rest. You understand? So we were sort of different from the beginning by wearing the earring in the left ear, with the cross, mainly cross earrings, in your left ear type thing, and the cane and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And the hats that you wear. But we wasn't really doing the blue rag and stuff in the beginning.
Right.
Or the cuz neither.
And I know, like, eventually when they did start doing the blue rags and stuff, everything is always, like, to the left. Why the left?
Because that's where your heart is at.
There you go.
On that side of your chest, when you're supposed to hold that left side of your chest. Middle left of your chest. So And you had to have heart to be a Crip. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. So, there you go.
That's where your heart is at.
And sometimes, and some of these things I'll ask, like, because I know guys like Felony Loke and people like that. Some of these I already personally know the answer to, but for listeners listening, give them a little bit more insight. But there you go.
Felony Loke and them, they done laced up some game with me, man. That's my guy right there. With a great deal of respect for that man out there in Cincinnati, Ohio, man. If he's speaking on it, then he know what he's talking about.
Right. Yeah. Felony, I've learned a lot from Felony, just talking to him and stuff, but he speaks very highly of you too. So.
Well, yeah, I love him like a brother, man. That's what this all based on, the love for each other.
All right. Let's do this real quick. Like I said, I usually break these into 30-minute segments. We're really only at about 23, but on this next segment, we'll go ahead and take a quick break and we'll get into that about
the Crip conflict, brother.
Yeah, about the conflict.
We never got a chance to talk about it.
Yes, sir. So y'all stick with us. We'll be right back. What's up, y'all? This is Ghostflows from the Ghostflows Speakeasy podcast. Yeah. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast, but you just weren't sure how to do it? Well, I got the answer for you. Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. That's right. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free. You heard me, for free, which you can use right from your phone or your computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so that it sounds great and it's easy to use. They'll distribute your podcast for you too, so it can be heard on all platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and so many other options. You can easily make money for your podcast too with no minimum listenership. So, go to Anchor and start podcasting right now. All right, y'all. Thanks for sticking with us. We're right back. Okay, so before the break, we'd gotten a lot of stuff about the history and why things formed the way that they formed and all of that. And then we wanted to get into a little bit about the Bloods and Crips rivalry, and then the Crips, how they started kind of fighting amongst themselves. So I don't really know where you want to kind of start that.
Yeah, well, we're going to start with it with the Crips and the Bloods. The Crips and the Bloods wasn't at each other's heads at the beginning. You understand what I'm saying? You see them at the Rose Cream skating rinks and in certain places together getting along back then at the time. What truly got them to want to fight each other, I really can't really explain. You understand what I'm saying in regards to that part there?
Right.
But it's just that you ain't gonna be able to agree with everyone, regardless on how this world spin. There's gonna be differences. It's gonna be differences. Now, the reason why the guys who say blood today is because, like I told you, it was a time when we all said it. You understand? And them guys who chose to rival against the Crips and not ally with the Crips just continue to go with the word that we always been using from day one, which was blood. Which other Crips the original Crips and bigger dudes used to say in the beginning, still, when they first came out. But I'm saying later on, when the Crips blew up as big as they did, it was like the NWA fucked the police. When they wrote the song, they didn't know it was going to sell 1 billion copies.
Right.
You understand? And that's what's the same thing. When Raymond set off these Crips, he didn't know it was going to blow up the way that it did, and it did. You understand what I'm saying? But the thing was, those who chose to ally against the Crips just stayed with the words blood. The Crips was, like I say, blowing up to this phenomenon type thing. We wanted to stand out different from the rest. So, because everybody's calling each other blood, so we like, no, we gonna call each other cuz. It still mean we family, we people. So we gonna address each other as cuz and not blood. And that's when cuz came in. And then we gonna sport these blue rags and shit too. And that's when that rag came in, bro. Around 72, 73. It's around the time the rag came in the cuz. You know, 2-3 years down the line. But the conflicts among the Crips, well, it was where the conflicts that happened that made the impact on what it is today actually generated out of Los Angeles. But before them conflicts in Los Angeles, it was one in the city of Compton in 1975 with the Midtown Crips in Compton and the Oaks Park Businessman Crips in Compton. Them two gangs butt heads, but wasn't nobody killed in a conflict amongst them two groups. You know, you had a couple people pistol whipped and jumped on and stuff like that, but wasn't nobody killed in that conflict, bro. But later on down the line in 1978, that neighborhood converted under what's known as the Santana Block Crips today. So that ended that dispute amongst them two groups in the city of Compton. But I was in the California Youth Authority at the youth training school at the time in Ontario/Chino, California, when the conflicts in Los Angeles went underway. Now in 1979, Andre Jones, Little Moo from 107 Hoover, was killed by what I'm told was 9-0 Hoovers at the time. I don't know how true the saying is, but I was heard it was 9-0 Hoover at the time. But later on, when the 9-0s and the 107 Hoovers became rivals in conflict, somehow 9-0 took the Hoover affiliation off their game. And it's now known as 9-0. But also that year, in 1979, the A-Trade gangsters killed Tyrone from Neighborhood Rolling 60s as well.
Yeah, that was the rivalry I was going to mention. That's probably the more famous one, the Rolling 60s and the A-Trades.
That conflict there was the one that opened the floodgates. Excuse me, it's the airport, not too far from me. Let that sucker get on by. Like him a big heavy one. He had them jets kicking in right then. But that was in 1979 when that escalated, man. But you know that the Hoover 9-0 conflict was just as big as that 60. And A-Trade itself, but that A-Trade Rolling 60 conflict was a humongous one right there, brother. And then that mainly opened up the floodgates in regards to other gang wars and conflicts among Crips, because that started bringing in this allied with each other, and it's like bringing more people into the fire, bringing more fire to the fire is what it was like doing to me, if you ask me what it was.
Right. Are the Rolling 60s and A-Trade, do they still kind of beef with each other, or has that pretty much all been squashed now?
I would say yes. And I would also say, in a way, it's better.
Oh.
When I got up and logged into Facebook one morning, and I seen Little Sody from A-Trade Gangster on a picture with Big U, I knew something was going on when I saw that. I'm like, damn, these two niggas on a picture together. I knew this was just killed.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, these two didn't on a picture together right here. I said, this is huge, man. What's going on? I said, Nipsey bringing these guys together like that. I'm like, it's a sad thing. It takes a death.
Right.
With such impact to create, you know, what's happening here. You know what I mean? But wow, when I saw that, I was like, wow, man, shit, something's going on for these two dudes to be hooked up on a picture together. So, you know, it made me smile, brother. I mean, a tear rolled down my cheek, to be honest, because that's all I pray for is for the Crips to get it back to how it was when we all had a 9-year understanding and love for each other. It's only been 9 good years,
right,
amongst the Crips, man, from 69 to 79. To be honest about it, in the last 41 years of it, man, it's been nothing but hell and chaos, man. With the Crips, the last 41 years of it, it was the good years was the first 9.
Do you think?
To be honest, you understand what I'm saying? So most of the guys who in it today ain't never really done it for the true purpose that it was brought around for.
Do you think that? Because I know you talk a lot about on Facebook about your vision for what Crip should be moving forward. And I think I saw a video, this might have been a week or two ago. You were on a video on Facebook and you were talking about how people talk about like what the Crips were like. They try to put it off as it was this something else than what it was. And I swear I can't remember what it was now, but I remember you went off about it because you were like, no, we used to beat people up and we used to do a lot of bad things.
That's what this the CRIP, Revolution in Progress, and everybody want to use the Black Panther as a slogan and this and that and that. And the thing is just it, brother. No. We Crips was not no damn Black Panthers, bro. You understand? Because we wasn't doing things that the Black Panther was doing, bro. We wasn't doing that. I put up a picture about the breakfast program and the free breakfast the Panthers were doing and how they gave out groceries and this and that and that. You know, they gave every kid coming out the elementary school with bag groceries to take home with them. You know what I mean? And this and I'm showing them Bobby Seals with all this food they want to give out to these kids so they can take home with them. You know what I mean? From school. And I'm telling them, us Christian Bloods didn't do that.
Right.
I said, that's why the Black Panthers didn't last for 5 years and they let us hang around for 50 years. Because we wasn't doing what they was doing, bro. Us Crips, man, we run around, we beat people up, man. We take the stuff from you, bro. You understand? We take your hat if we like and make you take your shoes off. Some losers might snatch your girl. You got your girl with you. And this and that. That you know, that's what we Crips done. And I ain't gonna see, you know, if you wasn't us, we'll challenge you. You know, you gonna get it. And that's how it was. And that's what some guys and other girls was tired of trying to put up with. So that's why we had rivals.
Right.
You understand? We was pushing up on people, man. Making them turn Crip and all this kind of crap. You know what I mean? And this and that and other. So, you know, we were not no community revolutionary, revolution in progress, none of that shit. No. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. You might have to edit out that.
Oh, no, you're all right. You're all right.
But no, we wasn't none of that, brother. We wasn't none of that, brother. You know, we was a force to be reckoned with. When you seen us coming, be ready to fight, man. If you was one of us, then you just multiply in with it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, that's how we did that. I mean, you know, we show up at a party or something. You know what I mean? Let's say 25 of us, we walk in the door, and then Here go another 30 Crips. Dudes who recognizable and reputable and shit, and we confront each other. We multiply in with each other. Now we got 60 of us. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And then that's how we got down back in the day. If we ran across each other, we all just multiplied in with each other. You know what I mean? So we might walk up this 50 of us, but at the event, it ended up we was 400-500 of us all together because we all fall under the Crips, homie. You know, but that don't happen no more because the in-hoods don't get along with the gangsters and the hooligans don't get along with these and those, and so we section off now. You understand?
Right.
We section off now. Back when I was doing my little bit, the Crips was one group. We were just one group of dudes. You understand? One group of dudes. And now in jail, the Crips is 4 or 5 sections now. They ain't one group. You know, you got the Hoovers alone. You understand? You got all the neighborhoods that stand alone. All the gangsters stand alone. Then you got the Compton car, you know, and you know, like that. So Long Beach got its own little car. So you know, you got 5, 6 different cars, the Crips. When I did my little bit, like I say, we was one. We was one. So when we had day room time or whatever, you know, and a Crip wanted to bring out some snacks or something to drink, let's say, we all set our shit on one table. One table. And if you was Crip, you didn't have to ask, homie. You go up there and you get whatever you want off that table. You know, and then those who didn't get business like us and didn't have, you know, nobody sending them nothing, we made sure they got something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, homie, you know, cuz go ahead and do what you need. And that's how we got down. The Crips put all this shit on one table. Kool-Aid, chips, tuna, I mean, whatever it is, we all gonna put it down on the table. And you know, y'all get it as you please. So rather you put something on the table or not, if you Crip on me, you can get that. So that's how we looked out for each other. These times, it ain't like that anymore. That unity is far gone, bro.
Right. Do you think, or I guess, because I see sometimes where you'll put up things about how you feel like Crips should be under. I even think you put up like a new line of code that you felt like.
Yeah, we should be chapters.
Right.
We should be chapters and not hood sets and gangs, homie. You know, we should be chapters. So let's say if you're from Omaha, you should be under the Omaha chapter. If you're from Seattle, you should be under the Seattle chapter. If you're from Brooklyn, you should be under the Brooklyn chapter, Bronx chapter. If you're in Memphis, Tennessee, you should be under the Memphis chapter. If you're in Dallas, Texas, you should be under the Dallas chapter, and so on and so on. If you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Anaheim, if you're in Gary, you know what I mean? You should be that chapter. You shouldn't be no neighborhood or no gangster or no such and such a street or anything of that, homie, at all. You know what I mean? You should just fall under Crip. That's why I want you to be us here. Hey, shut up, darn it. Hey, thank y'all, bro. Get us out. It ain't nobody out here for you. Get. I'm sorry about that, audience.
Oh, you're good, man. You're good. They're used to me having random silly stuff happen. It just happens. That's good. Do you?
Yeah, but I just want us to fall under because Crip is the brand, man. Like my big brother, Justin Baycott, man. He under the brand Rip on Facebook too. That's my big bro, original West Sider. One of the first guys to be documented as a Crip gang member in the county of Los Angeles in the state of California. That's big bro. That's brand Rip on Facebook. Y'all look him up. But yeah, like I say, Crip is the brand. all the hood sets and gangs fall up under. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You fall up under that.
Do you think that there'll ever be a time when Crips get to a point where they do kind of get into a like, I know how you, like when we talked earlier or a few minutes ago, we was talking about how people try to put them as this, revolution thing and blah blah blah, which you said no, that's not us. Do you feel like the future of the Crips, if you were able to kind of unite better, that it could go in that direction where you do start helping communities?
I don't want us to be revolutionaries. There ain't no need for no revolution, because revolution scares people. You understand? The true means of a revolution is to overthrow a force or a government in which you live within, which occupies them. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you want to remove them, and the way they treat you or whatever. I don't have a problem with this country, me myself.
Right.
To be personal about it, bro. I wouldn't want to be nowhere else but here. You understand? Under these laws that they give me, because I feel that they may not be politically correct, you know what I mean? But it ain't the worst stuff to be up against. You understand?
Right.
I take my chances with this government here. So I ain't into no revolution stuff, brother.
Right.
I'm not into that. And like I say, and people gonna die in a revolution,
Right.
A revolution ain't gonna be no joking. If you're gonna have a revolution, you're gonna have to expect people to die. And I'm trying to stop people from dying by bullets and violence and stuff like that anyway. So the thing is with me, man, I just want us to take on the persona of being a righteous people, man. You understand what I mean? And not be portrayed as thugs and drug dealers and dudes who don't provide for their kids and ain't there for their families because they always in prison and in the streets and this, that, and the third. Man, hey, that's a lie. Yeah, I sold drugs, bro. Yeah, I stole things. I robbed people. I done it all. I did all that stuff because that was a means of living. That's how we done. See, I come from an era before we didn't have the drugs to hustle and get our money on. So we either burglarize homes or commercial buildings and stuff like that. Oh, we rob people for money. We didn't have no drugs to sell when I was first involved.
Right.
So when we needed a means of money, that's how we did it. We did it by either breaking in homes, breaking in businesses, or we robbed people. Whether we strong on them or put a pistol on them. That's how we got our money back then. These guys from the early 80s through right now, getting manicured fingers. What I mean, brother, they had it easy. They didn't have to get down and scratch the surface like we did, bro. You understand? All they had to do is hang out with a pocket full of rocks and make thousands of dollars, and we didn't have it like that growing up as youngsters.
Yeah, I'd always heard that, like, especially when crack hit hard, that was kind of the end of any kind of real unity amongst anybody. I mean, especially
it brought in a lot of envy, it brought in a lot of jealousy, and it brought in a lot of problems, bro. With that envy and jealousy, guys got to committing crimes against their own friends and this, that, and other, bro. You know what I mean? And it, like I said, wasn't no more morals, and it became commercialized. It materialized. It wasn't about the nigga with heart no more. It was about who had the most gold around their neck, the most money in their pockets, the better car, and all this, that, and other. You understand? It wasn't about the man no more. It was about the things. The things. Money, jewelry, girls, cars. It became about them things and not the man anymore.
Right. All material.
So if you had them things, you was considered the man. But, a lot of guys who was ballers and had them nice things, and they wasn't the leaders in the gangs that they came out of. They wasn't the true leaders. Just society started became acceptance to these things, whether they was right or wrong. And it became what it was, bro. We made it became what it was. It's the same thing. At first, the killing wasn't no problem. We glorified it, homie.
Yeah.
We glorified it. If you was one of those homies in the hood and you went out and did some things because them dudes came over here and did some things to us, and we aware that you went out and did some things and made some things happen for us, we gonna pat you on the back for that. We gonna thank you for that. You understand? And this, that, and other. But not more than 3 miles away, somebody over here grieving. You got somebody over here grieving, about to cry their eyes out, bruh. You know what I mean? And about 3 miles northeast of them, there's some people who are happy about it.
Right.
Proud about it, bro. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
It's like a two-coin thing. To them, it's horrible what just happened here. Over here, it's a celebration. Right on, bro. Right on. Only way to do and this and that. It was an acceptance for it, huh? And everybody was fine with it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then when the drugs came in and the larger weapons, it means the weapons and things came in, body counts went up. The body count started going up. And that's when people start being concerned. Because when it's just 30 and 40 bodies a year piling up here, it ain't that bad for a big old city, right. County, like Los Angeles. Look at all that grounds that county covered, bro.
Right.
You understand? But now when you start getting 2,500 gang-related murders a year now you're looking around. Ain't enough refrigerators to put all these bodies up, and now they like, God darn, what's going on here? Oh, well, there's bigger guns on the streets now. It's a little more money in the hood now because they're selling drugs, and it's just that and all that and nothing. You understand? So it's okay, now something needs to be done. They say something needs to be done. So, okay, we need better laws. We need to do this. This stuff got to stop us getting out of hand. So they come up with these laws through strike laws, they come up with these gun laws, etc. Then they say, well, we gonna need something in order to get this stuff passed. We got to prove to these people that, what's going on. So you know what they did, brother? They put the cameras on us. Mm-hmm. They put the cameras on us. And while we were doing these interviews, brother, in the early 80s and the mid 80s, we doing these interviews. Like when I was doing them, brothers, I was like one of the first guys when that media stuff was grabbing the whole, when this stuff was coming to attention to people, wherever. I was in West 57. I was in 48 Hours, ABC Eyewitness News with Paul Moyers. I did it with the other dude on CBS Action News. I can't get his name right now. I did the congressional hearing. I was a witness at the congressional hearing at the Compton City Hall congressional hearing. That was in 87?
Wow.
That was in 87. And they had a write-up on me in the Los Angeles Times, the Los Angeles Herald, the Press Telegram, Long Beach, and it was another Los Angeles paper.
Y'all better check up on this man. He know his shit. He's been around. He's seen it. You just heard all those different things that he was involved with. Like, you can look this man up.
And so, yeah. Then I've done a lot of things with like community youth gang service. A lot of things, you know, I hadn't asked a dime for. They asked me would I help, and I said, yeah, I help. Project Impact, Inglewood Unified School District, Compton Unified School District. I helped co-found an organization myself along with Mark Townsend and Juan Longino. We call it Afro-Americans for Peace. And then we later on decided we'd call it All Americans for Peace because all kinds of nationalities and people were seeking some kind of peace, you know, within themselves.
Right.
So we decided to broaden it by calling it All American for Peace instead of Afro-Americans for Peace. And I've done that just before I actually got out of the Los Angeles area the day after Thanksgiving 1990. And that's when I chose to raise my kids up in Northern California, brother. So I had relocated and got on out of there around that time.
Now, with that statement being said, let's take a real quick break and then we'll come back and we'll get one more segment in with you as long as you got time.
I do, bro.
All right. We'll be right back, y'all. All right, y'all. Thanks for sticking with us. We were just talking a little bit offline about like changing. As you grow, you change, you learn. And towards the end of that last segment, then we were talking about all the different like community groups that that you'd been a part of, and then eventually you moved to kind of get away for a while, and that you had to work and you had kids, and you were like, you know, I'm done with the bullshit because I need to you know, take care of my kids. That was, what year was it that you moved like further up north? You still with me?
So I'm with you. I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go. I thought I lost you there for a minute.
Yeah, I got this ear to my phone, a phone to my ear. I mean, I bumped that mute button.
Oh.
So I gotta be careful.
Oh, you're all right. What year was it that you moved?
The day after Thanksgiving, 1990.
1990. So then you weren't down during the riots then when all that popped off?
No. When the riots went down, when the black and brown conflict went down, I wasn't in there.
Okay. Let's
but I can speak on some of the stuff.
Okay. I didn't want to get too much. I don't want to go too much into it because there's been so many documentaries on it, but I just was going to try to get a quick perspective from you on it.
On the riot?
Yeah, on the riots.
Okay, yeah, the riot. Everybody was saying how the Rodney King thing sort of like initiated that, but the pot was already boiling with the girl. I can't think of her name right now. That was killed by the Korean lady. Yeah. In the store over the juice when they claimed she had something in the backpack or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
You know, the tension, the build-up was through her. You know, the Rodney King incident, just everybody thought was they proof in the pudding that, you know, the system gonna do something about this. And when all them officers was found not guilty, that triggered what we saw with the Reginald Denny man in the truck over there on Normandy and wherever they were, Normandy in Manchester.
Yeah, it was just a crazy time. I think was that happened in 92?
Yes, sir. Well, my closest friend, Sammy, from my neighborhood gave me a call, and he gave me a call. I heard a noise I never heard in my life, bro. And he told me it was like one of them double helicopter blade, like helicopters, with the big one on the front, the medium one on the back end, a real big military one.
Mm-hmm.
He told me it was one of those, and he was actually at a checkpoint, and you got to have ID and be in the vicinity in order to get in. If your address wasn't on that ID, you wasn't going to be allowed to get into these vicinities.
Yeah.
And I was saying, damn, like that. He said, yes, they got sandbags at intersections and stuff blocked off. We'll got to show your ID. They might search your car, all this and that. And you had the military flying around. I'm saying, I told him like that, man. He said, yeah. I mean, wow, man, that was something else right there, bro. That was something else. I wasn't there to see it with my own eye, but I was in touch with family because all my brothers and sisters and them were still down that way.
Yeah, I just remember it being a crazy time because I would have been. So I was born in '79, so I would have been not quite 13 years old yet.
Yeah,
and I lived in a small town in Indiana. I live in Columbus now, but I lived in a small town called Greensburg. And I remember watching some of it on the news and not really understanding what people were doing and why for sure. Because I didn't watch the news. I was a kid. I didn't watch the news like that. I was more interested in whatever was on Saturday morning cartoons. I didn't, so.
I come down from Northern California because my wife, she's from Southern California as well. She grew up on the other side of town, went to high school on the other side of town, went to Dominguez High. She went to Centennial High out there in the city county. But we come down, after the ride to visit and stuff like that there, and they burnt down a lot of stuff, so some things are missing within the confines of the community that you didn't have access to anymore. So you have to go a little further now to get that you needed type thing. And at one time I stayed in Long Beach for a short time in North Long Beach. And they burnt down the store nearest us that we went to. So we had to go further down to another store because the one nearest us was burnt down. And we go to the store further from us, they guard their stores with guns, with shotguns and assault rifles. And I felt uncomfortable going in there trying to buy something from them. And they hawking over us with arms.
Right.
And I tell them, I don't understand why y'all burnt the store down nearest to us when he was the guy that let us slide when we short on money. Let us get away with stealing when we ain't stealing stuff, walking out the door with it. You know what I mean? He didn't give us no troubles at all. Y'all choose to burn him down. Now we don't want to take y'all money further down the street to some guys who'd rather hawk over you with weapons like they don't trust you at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, I don't want nothing out of here. So I turned around, came out that store, bro. I mean, the aftermath was crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about the riots themselves, but I imagine for quite a while after the fact was probably even worse, really.
Yeah. We had an AMT on the gas station right there in my neighborhood. They burnt that down. We ain't got that no more. I believe out there in Watts, over there by the metro station over there where they I think they burnt that boy's market down. I don't think there ain't no market over there after that. And then it took Watts to get a market for years after they burnt the ABC markets down doing the Watts ride. When was the Watts ride? 65?
It was. I know it was in the 60s. I can't remember what year it was.
I mean, wow, man. We just take from ourselves, bro. We just take from ourselves, man.
Man, some of this stuff is grim. Man, it's grim. That's just part of it, though.
Yeah.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you a little bit about was, it was a few years back. It's been a few years now, but Tookie Williams. Do you feel? And this is just a personal opinion. Do you feel like they should have dropped him from that death sentence?
According to the evidence they went on, yes. According to the evidence they had, yes.
Because because he ultimately ended up. I know he wrote a lot of those books, and he did a lot of redemption, so to speak, for things that happened on the outside. I just always wonder different people's opinions. Should he have died, or should they have tried to?
Well, I know Tookie personally, man. Like I said, we had the big three at the time. We had the east side, we had the west side, and you had the Compton Crips at the first stage of the Crips and the gang culture. And me, I had my coming up around it on the east side of Los Angeles, and when it came to Compton too as well. But Tookie he was a counselor somewhere at the Red House, located on Pine Street, right there in the city of Compton / Linwood. Linwood, a couple blocks down, you'd be in Linwood. But I remember seeing Tookie around then. Like I said, it was times I saw him in Los Angeles as well too. You know what I mean? And when the man presence was at stage, everybody noticed. He was sculptured like a god in regards to the body. You know what I mean? And everybody know his love for weightlifting and everything. And I hear a lot of guys credit Big Craig Munson of the Avenues for that. But yeah, I mean, at the time that incident went down with Tookie, man, a lot of guys was dwelling on the new drug, PCP. I don't know if those people around today is familiar with PCP, but that drug itself, man, had a lot of guys out of society doing things that they wasn't aware that they was actually doing under the influence of that stuff, bro. Yeah. You understand? So it should have been some mental credit given to anybody who was involved in some type of incident, crime or whatsoever, while being under the influence of the drug PCP, because under the influence of the PCP, you're not controlling yourself. You understand what I mean?
Right. In today's society, people ought to understand that with some of those drugs like bath salts and things like that. You got people out here walking around and acting like zombies.
Exactly. I know some guys who under PCP ended up with 25 years of life, and they didn't know what the hell was going on when they came through from it. Like, you said I did what? What's going on? You know what I mean? So the thing is, though, it was a lot of bad evidence on Tookie's case, man. The main guy that testified against Tookie was the killer himself, that he ended up in prison in Ohio himself. The same MO of the murder that he formed to put on Tookie. Shotgun murder in Ohio. Same guy that testified on Tookie and saying Tookie had a shotgun murder at the motel in Los Angeles. You understand what I'm saying? So, how you gonna roll the dice with a killer testifying against a killer? I mean, How you put some credit to that? You understand what I mean? So the testimony they got from that guy alone, for him to later on down the years turn out to be arrested under the same type of circumstances, same MO, same weapon, same everything. You know what I mean? How can you take credit for his testimony against Tookie? You understand what I mean? And
right.
all the years Tookie spent behind bars, he realized how the gang culture had an effect on these kids. Because once she entered the prison system, he started meeting some of them kids himself, who acknowledged him as legendary, true, original, and he hears stories from them, and these guys are from all over the place. And he was like, wow, I didn't realize that I had a big influence, just somewhat, in your own vicinity, you feel you're getting the respect that you deserve. But when you start seeing it coming from places out of nowhere, it puts a spell on you, bro. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It'll put a spell on you. Like, I didn't know that me being on Facebook has the impact that it has. I done had guys from all over the country. I done had guys in Africa, Australia, Canada, and other places on Facebook tell me that I'm like the idol. They look up to me. They like how I'm being positive about it, and I'll just be flabbergasted when I hear them type of things. I didn't develop relationships with people across the country off of Facebook. Now, they call me dad. I call them son. I call them daughters. You know what I mean? I call them nephews and this, that, and we don't only just communicate through Facebook. Some of them I met in person. Many of them I talked to over the telephone. And, some of them, they just call me out the blue. They just check on me. And these relationships I developed through social media, I don't like to use the word humble, because if y'all look up the definition for that, you'll see why I try not to use the term humble. But let's say I'm grateful, man.
Right.
I'm very grateful, man, for the love and the respect that I receive through all the people that I have met through social media. I was doing Twitter and Instagram for a while too, but it's been years since I've been on my Instagram or my Twitter page. But on Facebook, I'm known as Harvey Hartfield on Facebook, and I'm Crip Sag at Twitter, and I'm the first Sag second page on Instagram. And you can also reach me at my name, Harvey Hartfield, with the number 2 at gmail.com. And I do have 3 books, man, that I'm going to be releasing pretty soon. If you let me get a shout out about those.
Of course.
On here, the one book going to be called Right Smack in the Middle of It All. Somewhat like a biography of me growing up. There's another book I'm putting out there. It's called When the Crips Went Wrong. When the Crips Went Bad, actually, is what it is. And that's when the killings amongst us begun, and what we could have done to prevent it, and we didn't. That caused it to get out of hand. And then another book I want to put out there would be called The Behind the Scenes of Compton Notorious Gang and Santana Block Crips. Because there's a lot of stuff in the dark that needs to come to light about that area right there. Because that area right there was major as far as the city of Compton go.
Well, when them books are available, count my name on the list as somebody who wants them. And I'm not a big reader, but I'd be interested in that, just knowing you personally. And I met you through Felony Loc, and I'm not a Crip. I'm part of the Circle of Bosses thing with Felony, but getting to know you a little bit, and even more through this interview, like, I respect everything you've been through, and even more so respect the message you try to put out there now, and the way you try to unite people, and the way you try to make sure people understand and have the correct history about things, and not just whatever people want to feed you. There's a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit out there. Mm-hmm. But when your books do come out, and I know they're available, I will promote them on this podcast. Yeah, I give you that promise.
Before the book, I'm hoping the documentary or a movie, Put the Guns Down to Save a Life. That's a Platinum City production thing out here on the West Coast. Yeah, I'm going to send you a link of that from my phone to your phone.
Bet.
And you can check out the clip on that, but that's going to have me and Melvin Farmer, Skull, AC Robert Louis, founder of the Power Root Gang. We're going to have Barefoot Pookie. We're going to have Little Caesar, Mr. McFarley from Inglewood. He's going to have some insight on it from the Inglewood families. And we got Mexicans, we got Latins, we got mothers who lost kids to gun violence. We got police officers, politicians, athletes, entertainers, and everybody speaking on the topics of gun violence. And we trying to bring it in.
And what's that called again?
The gun violence. So that we hoping that, we don't know if that's going to be Netflix, theaters, or whatever the case may be, but it's in the makings as I speak to you. And I'm involved in that project there, so y'all be seeing that, me involved with that, before I actually release the books, because once I'm involved with that, it'll give me a broader audience once that go down.
What's the title of that documentary again?
Put down the gun and help save a life. And that's Platinum City. That's a Platinum City production. I think they got West Coast, Platinum City, West Coast Entertainment might be tied to that though. But it's Platinum City, Put Down the Gun and Help Save a Life. And they got a lot of artists involved. Compton Most Wanted, one of the guys out of Compton Most Wanted. Trey D, one of the East Siders. And Snoop and them group. I think they trying to get Trey D to be the narrator on there, and I told him, I like dude voice.
Yeah.
He have a voice that's catchy. That once he get to talking, it can grab people by the ear. So I thought that was a great choice to go with Trey D out of the Insanes, Long Beach. And also he was a performer in the group, the East Siders, with Snoop Dogg in there.
Yeah.
So he involved up in there too with it. So it's a whole lot of us involved in this project. We got Cutes from the Magnificent Seven. Rusty, rest in peace, brother. We got Cutes involved. So we got a lot of the players, man, who, like I say, I call them my big brothers, man. Like Barefoot Pookies and Skull and all them guys and Caesar and all them guys. I call them my big bros. You know what I mean?
Feel you.
But they get on me though about when I used to say that I was a second generation, just to to give them their respect when it was due. But they tell me, no, boy, you with us.
Oh, really?
They said, no, you with us. They said, we had you under recruitment in 71, put you in 73, so you one of us. And quit saying you a second generation. So since then, that's when I began to speak for the first generation. Other than that, without them guys' permission, I wouldn't have done so. You understand? Without Melvin Hardy's or Pookie and them consent, I wouldn't have done so. So
right.
That's why I speak on it. And I informed you earlier before this podcast, if I wasn't going to throw no lies or just shoot from the hip with my own thinking, if I knew I wasn't qualified to do so.
Right.
And if I felt I wasn't qualified to do so, I'm certain that I can give you somebody that is. You understand? So if you feel like this segment with me wasn't fulfilling enough and you need a little more, I'll slide one of the big brothers over there to you. Maybe we can get Pookie on the podcast next time.
Hey,
get a little something off his perspective.
I got a lot from you as it was. Probably more stuff I had no idea about than anything that just surprised me. And then just sitting and talking with you is interesting. But yeah, I would love to get more guys on the podcast. I actually, speaking of Big Trey D, really want to get him on the podcast. I think he runs his own podcast as well, but I really want to get him on the podcast too. But,
Yeah, well, he's supposed to be involved in that project with Platinum City, yo. And I'm gonna get a link to your phone. And I don't know if you'll be able to pull it up and be able to show it on your set. Is this filmed? Would I be able to look at you interviewing me somewhere down the line with this here?
With this particular podcast, no, but eventually I want to get to that live video feed to get that. But what I can do though is share the link on. I mean, you have my regular Facebook page, but I do have the podcast has its own Facebook page, and I can put anything you share with me, whether it be links for the movie, links for your books, anything like that. I can share up on the podcast page as well, so that you can see it visually.
So you get some audio at least.
Yeah, you'll get the audio for sure.
Okay. I thought maybe like you film yourself doing it. You know what I mean?
No, we're gonna get to that point. That's in the near future. But for now it's all audio. I don't think you'd want to stare at my ugly face for 40 minutes or more anyway. Hey,
Reggie, you better be quiet in there, Reggie. That's my dogs. They know my wife get home around this time, and they can't wait on her to get home, so they anxious.
Oh.
And any little sound they hear, walk by this gate or something, they're assuming it's her.
Right.
So they all run to the door and get the yap and think she on her way in. Yeah, the animals is something else, bro.
Right. Well, you can stay on the line with me for a couple more minutes, but we're gonna go ahead and end the podcast here. As far as the listeners go, man, I hope they got something out of this. I appreciate I appreciate your time. I really, really do.
Not a problem, brother. I hope they did too, bro.
All right, I'll be right back to send y'all on your way and let you know what's coming out in the next week or so. But I'll be right back after this break. All right, y'all. So I hope you really enjoyed that interview with First Sag. This one was really kind of unique for me to do because gang life has had a definite impact on hip hop culture. Now, I know we didn't necessarily talk about music, but the bottom line is gang culture, really had its impact, especially on West Coast hip hop. And I just felt like sometimes you don't always get that point of view, into gang life and how things started. You can see a lot in the media and there are documentaries and things out there, but to hear it firsthand from somebody who's lived it is a whole different thing. And so I found it really interesting to sit and get a chance to talk with somebody who has kind of been there for the most part, from the beginning. I mean, you did hear First Sag say, that he was kind of at the tail end of the original beginnings of the Crips, but he has a lot of knowledge that we really probably didn't even tap into. And I'm sure he's got a lot of stories that he probably could share, but I would never ask the guy to share, on record. But with all that being said, I've already posted a link to the podcast page on Facebook about the documentary movie he talked about. I will be posting information about his books as they come out, which is hopefully in the very near future. And if you want him back on the show and you have more questions, then, all the links. You can go to Ghostflows Speakeasy Podcast at Facebook, Ghostflows Speakeasy on Instagram and Twitter, Ghostflows Speakeasy, all one word, at gmail.com. Tell me what you thought about the interview. Tell me questions that you would ask if you wanted him back on, or, any other type of interviews like this. If you really enjoyed this, let me know, because I can always reach out to some of the resources that I have and get you more people on that can give you these type of insights and these type of stories and things. And I love doing that for people. So with all that being said, we will bring another episode this week because OG was out in New Orleans last week. So when he comes back for our normal episode for the week, you're going to hear a little bit about his New Orleans trip, how things were going. We will do our normal segments on the show and maybe adding some new ones. Shout out to Trashman Jones again for the amazing intro that we now have. And we're continuing to try to improve the podcast as much as we can. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. If you like these episodes, share them with your fellow people, man. Help us grow. Like the page on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff. Don't be afraid to interact with us. You can leave up to a minute at a time, a voice message right there on the Anchor app if you need to. If you need other links, typically I'll have them all posted at some point on all the pages. And, if you have any requests, or if you want to be a guest on the show, hit me up. Let me know. Hit OG up. Let him know. And we will get you on the show for, whatever you want to do. Because we're always down to, especially when it comes to music, we're always down to talk that. But anything that affects the culture in general, we're always down for that. So to all my copsters out there, to all my listeners, we appreciate you. Whatever you do, be safe. And as always, speak easy.